to our onboard hospitality video slot, a short and sweet video pick-me-up designed to help keep the conversations between airlines and suppliers going through these tough times and help us all make some positive plans for the future. We're Zoom calling key players in our sector, asking them one big question on the future of in-flight service relevant to their area of expertise. And with me, Mancius, founder of Now New Next, specialists in in-flight packaging and a champion for in-flight sustainability. Welcome, Ariane, and thanks for joining us. You are based in Holland, so first tell us a little bit about life there at the moment and how things look for you in the new normal.
Well, welcome everybody. Thanks for listening. And I feel sorry for the whole industry. I first have to say that because I think it's one of the most hard-hit industries we have. Here in the Netherlands, we had a so-called intelligent lockdown, as our Prime Minister said. And I think we must have been lucky with it because we were pretty free during lockdown. We have not been locked up completely, but in a halfway. And yesterday we reported the first day without any corona death. So we're on a good track at the moment. So we're doing good. Good.
Well, that's great, and thanks. Always nice to hear some good news going on somewhere in the world. And it's thank you for taking time to chat to me because I thought it would be good to get some insights on packaging, given that many caterers seem to be moving to boxed offers for their airlines. And also, we know you've had a long-term interest in pushing the sustainability issue on board, and that seems to have dropped off the agenda a little bit at the moment. So I think the one big question we'd like to put to you is the sustainability issue still relevant in a post-COVID world?
More than ever, I would say, because I already interviewed me earlier for the magazine. There is a relation between what's happening currently and sustainability. We are taking too much capacity from our Earth, and that's why these kind of disasters are happening. If I do my speech, I'm talking about big fires, crops that fall, exceed water flood, pandemic, crisis, all these kind of things. And since I'm doing my speech a year, all this kind of disasters already happened. If it was the big fires in Australia, if it's this pandemic, if it is falling crops, everything happened, which is not for a reason. And we are taking too much capacity from our Earth, and we need to speed it up towards a more circular economy. And in the pandemic, everything was frozen, and there was little attention towards sustainability because we had other things to fight. But now the problem of this pandemic is that we use a lot of gloves, mouth, everything is single use. Hospital, the garbage of hospital all needs to be burned because of the risk of contamination. So we absolutely got a huge amount of new garbage that we didn't use before extra on this planet. And now that we are in this de-escalation phase, I see more and more initiatives and also governments putting sustainability higher on the agenda than pre-corona. So that is the good thing, because I think it's absolutely even more urgent and relevant than ever.
Okay, yes, you mentioned the PPE. Obviously on airlines now and airports, we're seeing a huge amount of single-use PPE as a priority for in-flight service. And how can that be compatible with the kind of regulations that we see coming in Europe against single-use and the sustainability story that airlines had begun on a pathway, hadn't they? Do you feel they can get back onto the sustainability track even while they're having to deal with all that PPE?
The good thing is that the single-use plastics law is a fixed law. They, even because of Corona, they didn't postpone this law. So it's still there. 3rd of July 2021, we have to get rid of stirrers, balloon sticks, straws, cutlery. That is absolutely a hard deadline, so still a lot of work to be done. For the rest, we see now, because of catering operations that ceased, we see that people start to go to disposable lunchbox solutions or bags. I postpone, that is, I think, for this moment, the right way to do, because you want your crew to be safe and less memorable contact moments. But I hope that these catering operations take the moment to really change the way we consume on board and make everything that is single-use circular. But you need a lot of vision for that and courage, and a lot of work needs to be done before those big operations are that far. So I doubt it's going to happen, but I hope.
And do you think that the move towards boxed meals, we've seen a few come, perhaps you can tell us about any you've seen. Do you think that kind of might help us? I mean, it's boxes are recyclable, aren't they? You know, could they be a part of the solution?
Well, the thing is that every intercontinental flight has been considered as international catering waste and needs to be burned or go into a landfill. So recycling on international catering waste is unfortunately not yet the case. What we also see is a very interesting, I call it a systemic failure, is that because of the oil prices that dropped down tremendously, we see that recycled content is more expensive. And that is, in my eyes, a systemic failure, because we need to promote recycled content in our products on board. Up to 85% we can do that. But because the price of virgin material is now cheaper, a lot of companies now run to the cheaper solution. And we have literally here in the Netherlands big meadows where they put all the recycled plastics and just waiting for new clients. And people in the meantime starting to use virgin material. So yeah, we need or to tax virgin material, or we need to promote recycled material, or we need to oblige by law, like the single-use plastics, what they're doing with the bottles, also in meal containers, recycled content.
So that's something that's got to come from government and from international standards. That's not something that a supplier on its own, or an airline, even a very sort of forward-thinking airline, can really implement on their own, is it? They can't make that happen.
They can do that. They need courage and vision for that, and they need to pay a little bit more at the moment. But there are a lot of suppliers like the Ster, Global Sea, and many more that are already pushing recycled content in their PET containers. But we need to have that by law or a promotion by tax, so that it gets more attractive.
Sure. And what about we've heard a little bit from other caterers about the kind of the move towards digitalization. Do you think that could help the sustainability message? Excuse me. You know, if we have more pre-order, more efficient loading, there seems like through digitalization that might bring some sustainability benefits. Do you think this might be sort of given a bit of a momentum?
I hope so, because that's what we see in retail, that a lot of initiatives support my locals, direct-to-consumer initiatives boosted during Corona, which we love because we already saw this trend coming up. And I hope airline is picking that up, so that by having pre-order and preloading, you can adjust your stock, your supply chain better, and people have choice and control and the meal they want, and hopefully they consume it then, so that it doesn't become catering waste and so on. So we hope that that's going to happen, and even maybe on European routes that the free catering becomes paid catering, because also those kind of things help in reduce catering waste.
Yes, I know you work in other industries. Are there other examples of things that other sectors are doing that airlines could learn from?
Yeah, what we also see in retail is bring your own. So containers that we have to bring to the shop, refill systems. That could also be because in the 6R strategy, the reduce is the best one, because we need to minimize, and people think, yeah, we need to go to renewable materials, but that's not the solution. So reduce is the first one to take action. It's the most difficult one because we need to take away. And also the rethink phase. How can we do it completely different? For example, supported by technology. Those are difficult business models and you need vision and leadership for that. But the time is there to change now. Now that all the catering operations are ceased, it's time to rebuild our supply chain system.
And do you think perhaps the pandemic, the fact that we've all had to change our lifestyles, we've had a moment of pause in our personal lives, we're all reinventing how we live our lives, how we work, how we play, everything's, do you think that will inspire some visionary action amongst airlines?
Well, we had fantastic weather here in the Netherlands for 6 weeks, so we got treated by that without any white mark in the sky because no airline clouds. Lidde Edelkoort, the big visionary lady in fashion situated in Paris, called it the quarantine of consumerism. And that, I think, is exactly what is needed. We consume too much. Our lifestyle is too rich and therefore too much polluting. And if we quarantine our consumerism behavior, that's absolutely important to remember from this pandemic crisis, because it has been a terrible crisis for many people, businesses, but nature has really benefited from it. So I'm okay with it because it was just a very hard reality check. We are just living and taking too much from this planet.
So yes, obviously it has been a very difficult time for our industry, but with your long view perspective, you do feel optimistic about the future then, just to wrap it up?
Well, if I hope this kind of
planet at least.
Yeah, this kind of crisis are needed to change somehow, and I think if the ocean comes over our countries and we're too late, so I really hope this was a great warning that has been actually treating some. The children have not been hurt in this crisis, and the younger people have been saved. But maybe next time it will be not, and then the crisis would be really much heavier, because if all the children die, that is a terrible outcome. So we need to change. It's really urgent, and I hope that this was then a hard lesson, but we need to change.
Yeah,
we need to consume less. We need to go to a circular system so that we're not just taking too much from Mother Earth.
Okay, Ariane, well, that's quite a sort of a kind of a double-edged ending. We don't want to see a second pandemic that's even worse. But yes, as you say, a kind of a moment to really make the whole world think twice and just pivot towards a better way of being. So thank you for putting that into our minds and making us, think twice. I think, we are all sort of willing to think at the moment, aren't we? People are being forced to think, and let's see what comes. New vision, new visionaries, and a new way of being.
It made everything fluid, and we are very creative creatures, so I'm also positive about that. But let's keep that fluidity for the future so that we can act faster in the next decade.
Good. Okay. Well, thank you very much for your time. That's great. And we'll be watching what comes next.
Yes.
Take
Thank
care.
you.